Some footballers become legends for records and trophies. But George Best forced football itself to change. In the 1960s, his genius on the pitch met a new kind of global fame. One unrestrained, unpredictable, and more seductive than any defender. Manchester United signed him at 17, and soon the crowds, the press, even his teammates realized talent alone won't control what happened next. What happens when the brightest star outgrows the game designed to contain him? Bob Bishop's telegram arrived on Matt Busby's desk in 1961 with a simple message that he had found a genius. George Best was 15, small for his age, and already restless in the crowded streets of East Belfast. He spent hours weaving between lampposts, dribbling through imaginary defenders, shoes scuffed and laces undone, always chasing the next moment of magic. His family lived in a modest terrace on the Craigaw estate, where football was escape as much as pastime. Friends and neighbors recall him as quiet but quick-witted, more likely to slip past you than talk his way through. Manchester United's invitation pulled him across the Irish Sea. The journey from Belfast to Manchester felt longer than the miles suggested. Best arrived at Old Trafford as an apprentice in 1961, uncertain and overwhelmed. Within days, homesickness sent him back home. But United, sensing what they had glimpsed, persuaded him to return. There were no grand promises, just the chance to play, to belong, and to test himself against the best. Training at United was a world apart from the streets of Belfast. The pitches were manicured, the routine strict, but Best's style did not fit the usual molds. He dribbled past seasoned professionals in practice matches, feinted and darted, refusing to be bullied or boxed in. Coaches and teammates watched as he glided through tackles, balanced on the edge of chaos, always looking for a gap no one else saw. Matt Busby, the club's legendary manager, recognized the rare mix of courage and creativity. He did not try to change him. Instead, Busby gave him freedom, a space to improvise, to play without fear, and to bring the wildness of street football into the heart of a professional team. Best's first team debut came in September 1963 at just 17 against West Bromwich Albion. He was slight, almost fragile in a league known for its physicality, but defenders quickly learned that catching him was harder than stopping him. Word spread that there was a new kind of player at United, one who entertained as much as he delivered. Crowds began to gather early, hoping to catch a glimpse of the boy from Belfast warming up, each touch a small act of rebellion. In those early years, expectation grew with every match. The club had found more than a talent. They had found a player who made football feel unpredictable again. Manchester United's ambitions stretched beyond English borders, and George Best was at the heart of their most daring pursuits. By 1965, he was no longer just the promising teenager from Belfast. He was a regular in a side that reclaimed the First Division title, sealing it with a tense draw at Aston Villa on the final day. That championship, the club's first since the Munich tragedy, set a new standard for what was possible with youth, flair, and nerve. 2 years later, United faced another trial of nerve at Upton Park. A goalless draw against West Ham confirmed a second league title in 3 seasons. Best, now in his early 20s, was central to the attack that outpaced rivals and captured imaginations. He wasn't just scoring goals. He was redefining what it meant to entertain. The Best, Law, and Charlton trio became shorthand for invention and unpredictability. Fans traveled miles not just to witness results, but to see the game played with audacity and style. Europe, though, was where legends were truly made. On the night of May 29, 1968, Wembley Stadium hosted the European Cup final between Manchester United and Benfica. After 90 minutes, the score was locked at 1 apiece. Early in extra time, Best broke the deadlock. He collected a loose ball, glided past the goalkeeper, and rolled it into the net. That goal made it 2-1, and United surged to a 4-1 victory. It was the first time an English club claimed the European Cup. Best, at just 22, had delivered on the grandest stage. The accolades followed quickly. That same year, he was named European Footballer of the Year, winning the Ballon d'Or. Writers and players across the continent agreed no one combined artistry and effectiveness quite like him. His tally, more than 470 appearances and 179 goals for United, only scratched the surface of his influence. The press began to call him El Beetle, a nod to his mop-top hair and the celebrity crowds he drew across Europe. His image appeared in magazines and advertising, his interviews quoted alongside pop stars. For young fans, he represented a new kind of football hero, stylish, expressive, and fearless. On the pitch, defenders found themselves outnumbered even when facing him alone. Off it, his charisma and confidence set him apart from the buttoned-down world of English footballers. By the end of the 1960s, George Best was not just United's star. He was a symbol of the game's new possibilities. A player whose talent demanded more than traditional measures of greatness. Trophies and awards confirmed his place at the top, but it was the sense of freedom he brought to football that made him unforgettable. Lisbon, 1966. 12 minutes into the European Cup quarterfinal, George Best sent the ball crashing into Benfica's net. Then, almost before the crowd could catch its breath, he did it again. United won 5-1, but it was Best's performance that left the city talking. Portuguese newspapers called him O Quinto Beetle, capturing a new kind of football stardom that felt as much about image as ability. When he returned to Manchester, reporters snapped him, stepping off the plane in a sombrero, grinning like a rock star. The nickname stuck. The nickname El Beetle was everywhere, on magazine covers, television interviews, and fashion spreads. Young fans copied his hair and his swagger. The old boundaries between football and pop culture seemed to blur overnight. Best leaned into the spotlight. By his early 20s, he was more than a footballer. He was a face for the new youth culture. Manchester's high streets saw his name on the doors of boutiques selling sharp suits and velvet jackets. He partnered with friends to open Edwardia, a clothing shop that drew crowds as large as any match day. Soon after, he launched the Slack Alice nightclub, a magnet for models, musicians, and journalists eager for a glimpse of football's most glamorous figure. Advertisers queued for his likeness. He posed for photo shoots, endorsed products, and appeared in commercials, his image as valuable to brands as his feet were to United. The press followed his every move, from the pitch to late-night parties. Stories about his relationships and nightlife filled the papers almost as often as match reports. In a game still run by old rules and older men, there were no guides or guardrails for this kind of celebrity. Best's world grew louder, faster, and harder to contain, even as he played on with the same daring freedom that first made him famous. Training sessions began to slip by without George Best. In the early months of the 1971 to 1972 season, teammates arrived to find his place empty, boots untouched. Night after night, stories filtered back from Manchester's clubs and London's bars, each one harder for the club to ignore. Fines landed, small at first, then more frequent, but never enough to bring him back in line. Frank O'Farrell, brought in to restore order, tried private talks and public warnings. He dropped Best from the squad, hoping absence would sting more than punishment. Each time, the same cycle: a brief return, a flash of brilliance, another disappearance. The dressing room grew restless. Some players saw double standards. Others watched in disbelief as the most gifted among them became the least unpredictable. O'Farrell's patience wore thin. He imposed suspensions, handed out fines, and made it clear no one, not even George Best, was bigger than the club. Still, Best drifted further, sometimes vanishing for days with only a vague excuse: a dentist's appointment, a missed train, or simply silence. By the end of 1972, O'Farrell was gone, replaced by Tommy Docherty, who set even stricter boundaries. The club's frustration turned to resignation. Over Christmas 1973, Best failed to report for training once more. Docherty dropped him from the team. On January 1st, 1974, Best played his final competitive match for Manchester United against QPR. The split was decisive. What had once been managed with indulgence and hope now ended with a closed door. Brilliance no longer shielded him. The club let go of its most unpredictable star, and the era of George Best at Old Trafford was over. Today, clubs invest millions in player welfare and media training, systems built from lessons George Best never had. As fame grows faster than ever, the line between brilliance and burnout remains razor thin. The modern game still asks, can genius thrive when the spotlight never blinks? Share your thoughts below.